Essays on Untouchables and Untouchability, Religious by Babasaheb Ambedkar. Chapter 3, Part 3, F. The second impediment in the progress of Christianity in India was the struggle between the Catholic and non-Catholic missions for supremacy in the field of proselytization. The entry of the Catholic Church in the field of the spread of Christianity in India began in the year 1541 with the arrival of Francis Xavier. He was the first missionary of the new Society of Jesus formed to support the authority of the Pope. Before the Catholic Church entered this field, there existed in India, particularly in the south, a large Christian population which belonged to the Syrian Church. These Syrian Christians, long seated on the coast of Malabar, traced their paternity to the Apostle Thomas, who, it is said, went through Syria and Cilicia for conforming the churches. They looked to Syria as their spiritual home. They acknowledged the supremacy of the Patriarch of Babylon. Of Rome and the Pope they knew nothing. During the rise of the papacy, the Mohammedan power, which had overrun the intervening countries, had closed the gates of India against the nations of the West. This had saved the Syrian churches in India from the Roman Catholic Church. As to the question whether the Christianity of the Catholic Church was the true form of Christianity, or whether the Christianity of the Syrian Church was the true form of, I am not concerned here. But the fact remains that the Portuguese who represented the Catholic Church in India were scandalized at the appearance of the Syrian churches, which they declared to be heathen temples, scarcely disguised. The Syrian Christians shrank with dismay from the defiling touch of the Roman Catholics of Portugal and proclaimed themselves Christians and not idolaters. The other is that the Malabar Christians had never been subject to Roman supremacy and never subscribed to the Roman doctrine. The elements of a conflict between the two churches were thus present, and the Inquisition only gave an occasion for the conflagration. The inquisitors of Goa discovered that they were heretics, and like a wolf on the fold, down came the delegates of the Pope upon the Syrian churches. How great was the conflict is told by Mr. K in his volume already referred to. The first Syrian prelate who was brought into antagonism with Rome expiated his want of courage and sincerity in the dungeons of the Inquisition. The second shared the same fate. A third, whose sufferings are more worth of commiseration, died after much trial and tribulation in his diocese, denying the Pope's supremacy to the last. The churches were now without a bishop at a time when they more than ever needed prelatical countenance and support, for Rome was about to put forth a mighty hand and a stretched out arm. Don Alexis de Menezes was appointed Archbishop of Goa. It was his mission less to make new converts than to reduce old ones to subjection, and he flung himself into the work of persecution with an amount of zeal and heroism that must have greatly endeared him to Rome. Impatient of the slow success of his agents, he determined to take the staff into his own hand. Moving down to the south with an imposing military force, he summoned the Syrian churches to submit themselves to his authority. The churches were under an archdeacon who, sensible of the danger that impended over them, determined to temporize, but at the same time to show that he was prepared to resist. He waited on the archbishop. An escort of 3,000 resolute men who accompanied him on his visit to Menezes were with difficulty restrained on the first slight and delusive sign of violence from rushing on their opponents and proving their burning zeal in defense of their religion. It was not a time for Menezes to push the claims of the Romish Church, but no fear of resistance could divert him from his purpose. And he openly denounced the Patriarch of Babylon as a pestilent schismatic and declared it is heresy to acknowledge his supremacy. He then issued a decree forbidding all persons to acknowledge any other supremacy than that of the Roman pontiff, or to make any mention of the Syrian Patriarch in the services of their church. And this done, he publicly excommunicated an acknowledged head of the Syrian churches and called upon the started archdeacon to sign the writ of excommunication. Frightened and confused, the wretched man put his name to the apostate document and it was publicly affixed to the gates of the church. The end.